Ajo is a former Phelps Dodge mining town located 45 miles from the Mexico border. A fictional version of the town is the setting of Greg Dugan's recent play titled El Gordo y El Flaco in Arizona. The play is packed full of intimate references to place as it comments on the history of this borderland region. Even the theater venue itself is part of this story, as the play was performed in an upstairs room of the former company store. In the play, two space aliens named Gordo and Flaco arrive in the region of southwestern Arizona and northwestern Sonora called the Papagueria. The aliens are intergalactic auditors of some sort, and they have come to Earth to check on the progress of the human race. They travel through time, assessing the status of the region's human communities they encounter in each historical era. They are intrigued, captivated, and disturbed by what they find. Gordo sees humanity through rose-tinted glasses, while Flaco's skepticism and critique of humanity's many contradictions borders on cynicism. In the play, the aliens come to the Papagueria disguised as anthropologists. They arrive in the fictional town of in 1917, where they encounter an imposing man called Myway. Myway is a tongue-in-cheek reference to John Greenway, Ajo's founding father. Greenway came to the region by way of the bustling copper camp of Bisbee, Arizona in the 19-teens, establishing Ajo's open-pit mine in the contemporary town. Amidst the din of mining and flanked by pyramids of slag, mountains of tailings, and the chasm of the pit, Myway tells Gordo and Flaco why he and his company now run this town. You see, this dusty old town was the remains of an empire unable to compete, best left to die. But no, we lay out the borders, the streets and railroads, spend big money, create jobs for everybody, Mexican, Indian, and white. We build schools, lots of bars and churches to help ease the pain, and then we tap into that vast aquifer of water trapped below, and now we at Phelps Dodge call the shots. That's our creation myth, amigo. The character Myway alludes to the pre-20th century historical geography of the region. In the 19th century, the Papagueria became a triple frontier between Mexico, the United States, and the Tohono O'odham Nation. Before the Spanish, Mexicans, and Americans arrived here, however, the region was laced together by a series of Native American trading routes that connected the Gulf of California to Hohokam farming communities along the Gila and Salt rivers. The Jesuit missionary Father Kino came to the region in the late 17th century, bringing Catholicism, cattle, and the Spanish crown, and in 1854 the Papagueria was cut in half by the U.S.-Mexico border. In 1917, John Greenway's architects designed the new town of Ajo following the principles of the City Beautiful movement. Ajo's Spanish colonial style was loosely based on Tyrone, New Mexico, a copper mining town established by the Phelps Dodge Company just a few years earlier. In her book, Building the Working Man's Paradise, Margaret Crawford describes the design of Tyrone, but her words may as well apply to Ajo. Set down on the mining frontier, historical and vernacular styles simulated growth over time, providing a history that the town lacked in fact and promising permanence that its founders did not actually intend. In a wild and unsettled region, the charming colonial town performed the same utopian function as the picturesque rural village, offering a benign myth of refuge counterposed to the dangers of the surrounding environment. Ajo's idyllic Spanish plaza and broad boulevards reflected a commitment to the welfare of company employees. But the town's rigid racial segregation reflected a commitment to a social order that relegated Hispanics and Native Americans to an underclass. Again evoking an image that equally applies to Ajo, Crawford adds that Tyrone's Spanish urbanity evoked a hierarchical social order, suggesting an almost feudal relationship between Mexican miners and their American bosses. In Ajo, the plaza, the best housing, and the broad boulevards were located in American town. Ajo's school, swimming pool, and other public spaces were segregated. The best-paying jobs for skilled workers were reserved for whites, while Mexicans and Indians were only allowed to work unskilled jobs for the lowest wages. This kind of discrimination was standard practice in Phelps Dodge mining towns in the early 20th century. The social order began to be chipped away after World War II, with significant legal challenges to segregated housing coming in the 1960s. The homes of Ajo's Mexican town and Indian village were removed, however, in anticipation of the expansion of the pit. The tailings piles advanced on those former neighborhoods, but a vociferous strike and declining copper prices led to the closure of the Ajo mine in 1986. Between 1980 and 1986, Ajo's population dropped from 5,200 to 2,800, and the Phelps Dodge workforce went from 1,100 to 29. The company sold much of its property, and overnight Ajo ceased to be a Phelps Dodge town.